And now I'm going to turn things over to Jason Masciarelli, our Vice President of Go-to-Market and Head of Pega Ventures. And Jason's going to bring up our panel. Sure, you can clap for Jason as he walks up. Why not? And I am very much looking forward to the opportunity for you to hear from Brad, from Fielo, and Arun from Evonsys, and Adrian from Fisent, and Eelco from Thalently and BPM Company, and I'll let Eelco explain all of that to you. And to introduce themselves to you as they come to the stage, we're going to watch this quick little video.
Evonsys is a technology company. We provide digital transformation services and products to the financial services community, and one of our initial products is TrackEI. TrackEI is a case management application that helps banks manage and process exceptions and investigations related to cross-border payments.
Hi, I'm Adrian Murray. I'm the founder and CEO at Fisent Technologies. We are an applied AI software company based in Toronto, Canada. Our platform, BizAI, enables regulated enterprises to turn unstructured content into data that drives automation. So at Fisent, we partnered with Launchpad to develop a regulatory testing application called RegERI. The application is built to model the testing process by which banks and other financial institutions will evaluate the effectiveness of their consumer disputes according to Regulation E. And so the Launchpad workflow drives the end-to-end disputes testing lifecycle, and Fisent BizAI is embedded throughout the workflow to analyze the evidence that is provided as part of the disputes process.
My name is Eelco Vissinga. I'm the CEO and founder of BPM Company. Last year we started to work with Pega Launchpad. First application that we built is Thalently. Thalently focuses on the HR processes in your organization. It helps managers and employees to build their own career, facilitate their career, and guide them to their career. This application really helps you guide you through the process, not forgetting any steps in the process. Facilitates managers to run the process correctly, and it helps employees to really think about their career, what to do, what to develop with themselves, how to work on the competences, and how to set their personal goals.
Brad Baumann, COO of Fielo. Our core offering, Fielo Loyalty, is a very robust loyalty solution. The solution has recently undergone implementations of AI where the platform will provide recommendations for you in terms of what programs should be run, how your current programs are running. It allows for you to set up an incentive program using our AI agent. Fielo partnered with Launchpad last year to re-platform our core loyalty and incentive product that we have. Part of that implementation was the building out of a loyalty designer, which is an AI agent that has a discussion with you, asks questions, challenges your thinking, and in the end delivers a well thought through loyalty blueprint that you can then take and deploy on our core loyalty application.
Awesome. Well, great to have you all here in the flesh, in addition to your video. So welcome to the panel. And really our theme today is going to talk about a lot of the things that you've seen today already. These folks are already building a lot of these things and have been experiencing some of this stuff. Not all the new features that you saw, but we're going to talk about a lot of these themes. So one of the big focuses of this session is really around going from a services firm to more of a product-based organization. So just to show hands in the audience, how many people are with services firms in the room? I would say probably a majority of folks. Yeah? Okay. And so, our whole panel has actually come from services backgrounds. And so we're going to talk a bit about their journey from having a services business to moving into products. So I guess, just to open to each of you at the panel, how many of you have, what made you decide to build a product and move from a services organization? Maybe Eelco, I'll start with you.
One of the reasons is more the thing that I'm building, and that's I'm building an organizational growth platform. So all my companies are focusing on services. And in order to create new growth, I'm identifying, of course, new opportunities. And one of those opportunities is with a business-driven mindset, focusing on building IP, generating new revenue streams, recurring revenue streams. But the important thing is also when you create new growth paths within your company, it's important to see if you can connect things to each other. So looking for effects that strengthen each other. And with this new thing, with building software, there's a strengthening effect if you look at the Pega behind it. We have experience with it, and for us it's helping creating a platform where you can give new people experiences with Pega before they go to the Pega platform, for instance. Those kind of effects help you to create a healthy growth company, let's say.
Nice. And you've decided to actually launch a separate brand for the product that you're building, right?
Yeah, so I decided 6 years ago to, instead of building one company, going for a multi-brand company, keep the company small and manageable and focused on their own core business. So that helps us manage the company, let's say.
Yeah, great. Arun, so you've built a successful services business over the last several years in the Pega ecosystem. And I know you've built out a team that's dedicated to building product, and now you've built a product on Launchpad. So just talk a bit about why you've done that and where you see the opportunity is.
Absolutely. Am I audible to everybody?
Yeah. Just grab the mic.
I'll skip the mic. Right?
Grab the mic because we might get you on recording.
We want to record you.
Okay, sweet. So we started Evonsys in 2015, right? We started as a pure play Pega services partner. But we have a long history before that, because starting from me, we've been doing Pega for almost like about 24 years. So the first version of Pega that I personally worked on is version 3.2. Steve might probably remember some of the the origins of Pega as a platform itself. But as an organization, while we did start as a pure play services partner, our passion has always been in building products. Because having built products for Pega in the past, we wanted to kind of get into the methodology of building products, because that's where our passion was, right? So that's essentially why we started a product-based organization where we do have services. We also do have products, which and try to deliver meaningful outcomes, both from a services standpoint as well as from a product standpoint.
Awesome, great. And Brad, with Fielo, I know the DNA and kind of original story of Fielo was a services firm, and then you folks built out a loyalty platform primarily on the Salesforce platform. So maybe talk a little bit about the journey that you've had in the last couple of years with us, deciding to basically take what you built on Salesforce and rebuild it on Launchpad.
Yeah, so our application is, our legacy application is a Salesforce native application, which comes with some benefits. We get access to the full Salesforce org. It comes with some challenges where we put a lot of extra pressure on our customers' IT folks, because it is a Salesforce app in their environment. And so really what we're trying to do is pull that away, provide the same features, functionality, but also grow our TAM, our addressable market. So, our TAM today, or historically, has been if you're a Salesforce customer and you run loyalty, we're a good fit. If you're not a Salesforce customer in your loyalty, we've sold a few, right, and talked to clients into actually deploying Salesforce licenses. But again, it's our primary move to Pega was around addressing a larger addressable market, pulling some of the pressure that we're putting on our customers' IT, and then really around the innovation side.
Great, awesome. So Adrian, your story is a little bit different. So you've built an innovative AI platform, BizAI, and you started to leverage Launchpad. So maybe talk a little bit about BizAI and how you see the role of Launchpad helping you build your business.
Yeah, thanks, Jason. So yeah, our business is quite different because we weren't a services company. We were a software product company from the inception. But what inevitably happens is, you go out into the market and folks want to be able to get an outcome, as John and I talk a lot about. And getting an outcome, especially in today's world and in the enterprise space, is not usually done with one singular technology. So in the case of Launchpad and BizAI, there's a real natural partnership because we provide what we call the content intelligence layer, and then Launchpad provides the deterministic workflow, the application layer, the permissioning and security infrastructure to be able to actually deploy an application. So we built a few of these now, regulatory testing, which we call RegERI. We partnered with a compliance consulting advisory firm in the US to build that. And then recently we launched a complaints application with the same firm where they were looking to actually take that product to market and they want to own and deliver that software application. Our technology is actually embedded in the product. So it's part of the workflow and the outcome we're delivering. In the case of regulatory testing, it has a lot to do with evaluating evidence, which can be things as simple as documents, but often it's chats. It could be audio calls. That evidence needs to be understood as part of the workflow to drive automation. So we combine the two together, and that gets an outcome, which is what actually people buy.
Great, thank you. So shifting a little bit into AI coding and development. So obviously a huge adoption in the market around AI coding and development and AI app development. Why not simply build everything with AI coding agents, and why build it with Launchpad? And I'll just leave it open to the panel to jump in.
Shall I start again?
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, of course, also relatively new as well for our company. But yeah, I think there's really a strength in the platform, in the platform Infinity, but also on the platform of Launchpad. And so there's a lot of being taken care of with respect to governance, security, that kind of stuff. And I think the organizations need structure as well. So with vibe coding, you can speed up a lot of things. It really helps make you more productive, as we just saw in the movie or in the demo, let's say. Yeah, but I think organizations also need structure in their when building software. Keep it maintainable, keep it manageable, keep the cost acceptable. You can imagine in large organizations, things can go really rogue, and that's something you not want to do. You don't want to create a new shadow IT organization.
Yeah.
So I would agree with them, right? So AI, as long as it is augmented in terms of building, is good. But allowing it to build it on its own and releasing it is not the way to go about it, because there needs to be a lot of governance around what's getting built, how it's getting tested, how it is actually getting released. Especially when you look at how some of the enterprises are leveraging vibe coding, it'll help to accelerate what you want to get done, but there is a governance model that is actually structured around that, right? So even today when Steve was basically demonstrating, it's also about Steve knows the functionality inside out, so he provides that overlay of understanding the code, what could have been generated, and having a proper structure around it, right? Otherwise, you just build code and then you release it. You don't know what's getting built, how it is actually going to be used, and how it is actually going to be impacting the overall build. And it's not just pieces of code that is going in. At the end of the day, it still needs to fit into the bigger picture. That's where you can't just give it to okay, let's use vibe coding to generate everything and migrate to production, right? There should be structure around it.
Yeah, I'll just add, when we talk to customers, one of the things we say is that the shift that's happened in the last few years to having these powerful coding agents that can help you build and develop software has changed the paradigm from build versus buy to buy versus maintain. And I think maintain, to me, that's the key word. Steve hit it again, we're going back to him, but when you can use the agentic tools to build something in a model-driven architecture, you actually have something that can be maintained, handed to people that understand what's going on, whether they want to use AI to maintain it or they want to actually use the application layer to do that. It just makes it that much more practical. And for us, it's kind of obvious because that's not our core business. So, we're not going to want to build custom apps that then some software engineering team has to go manage, maintain, and evolve. And I think that paradigm is really what kind of changes the environment.
Yeah, and for us, I mean, we're a loyalty company, but we're essentially a bank. So we're rewarding our customers for doing some activity, and when they do that activity, whether it's sales data or training or whatever it is, we're rewarding generally points or credits or discounts. And so for us, the core has to be 100% correct all the time, like your bank statements are generally 100% correct. Now, the experiences that we're providing our customers, is being vibe coded. But when it comes down to the core bit of how is an activity being processed and what that activity is giving in terms of points or credits or discounts, that's where things are locked down into our core, and that's Pega.
Yeah, awesome. And so, staying with you, Brad, I think it's awesome what you guys have done. We're using Replit to basically build custom front end on Launchpad, and got a chance to see that recently. So talk a bit about how you decided to use Replit and where you see Replit fitting or vibe coding for the front end versus Launchpad.
Yeah, so we build, I think in the video you saw, that we have a loyalty designer that allows prospects or even our internal users to talk with a chatbot, which is the Pega agent. And in that conversation, we have defined a data model within Pega of all of the questions that we need answered to develop a loyalty program. And so the agent within Pega is managing the conversation. It's managing what columns of data we have collected and what columns of data we need to continue to collect. And so the agent continues to ask questions until the agent until the customer or prospect either finishes all of the questions or until they get frustrated and they just say, finish it for me, you make recommendations for me. And that all of that data then is stored in Pega. What we can do with that data then is very quickly migrate that loyalty blueprint that was created into our loyalty program to launch a quick prototype for our clients.
Very cool. Very cool. Adrian, one of the things you and I often talk about is what organizations misunderstand about building products and kind of actually getting them sold into enterprises, and the challenges that you have with building something with AI and actually getting it sold through procurement. Can you talk a bit about that?
Yeah, so at our company, what we say is we enable regulated enterprises to turn unstructured content into data that drives automation. The regulated enterprise component is the key piece because it is its own space with its own set of challenges. I think what we've seen is that it's really powerful to be able to kind of get something to happen on a screen really quickly and see it. What ends up mattering, though, is can you trust and rely on that output in production? And so, at our company, one of the big things we've been focused on lately is what we call trust or assurance signals, which is just all about how do you think about you're getting these outputs from the model, but do you even know they're correct? How do you know? What are the signals that are telling you they're correct? Like it is amazing that you can put something in and get something out, but if you can't create that trust or assurance layer that lets the security folks, the procurement folks, the folks that are in compliance actually vet or validate that the outputs you're getting are usable, then they don't get used. And ultimately, it's a cool demo or app, but it doesn't really get anywhere, which I think is why there's so much of this failure, let's say, that happens from pilot to production. This is talked about kind of extensively, but it's true. When you deal with these types of customers, they're doing all kinds of cool things. They're working in a lab, building really interesting features and prototypes. But then when it comes to actually being able to scale that thing out to 1,000 transactions a day or 1 million transactions a month or whatever it might be, it falls apart because what works in, say, a vibe-coded setting isn't necessarily what works at scale if you don't have that signal and trust layer built in. So that's kind of how we think about it.
So just to add a few points to what Adrian was actually talking about as well, right? So if it TrackEI, the product that we have actually built on Launchpad is for tracking exceptions and investigations for a cross-border payment. Okay, it's already an extremely complex use case, and there's multiple, not just one bank. There's going to be multiple banks involved in the overall transaction, right? So it is extremely regulated as well. So essentially, if you're trying to use, one of the things that we wanted to, that Launchpad helps is what John was actually pointing about in his speech in terms of the ease, right? So security is handled as a part of the platform. So for example, if you are looking at SOC 2 certifications and all of that stuff basically comes from the platform as well. And it is also the ease of deployment, right? So most of that the platform basically covers already, right? On top of it, if you are trying to add the AI layer, which is actually provided by the platform, which is also being governed as a part of the platform, because all of these are going to be asked by your CISO when you want to talk about your product, which is what Adrian was actually pointing to as well, right? You build a cool product, but trying to sell the product through procurement and with the CISO is a completely different ballgame, right? The advantage, or at least a step up that you already have, is it's being implemented on a proven platform, so that hurdle is easier to cross. Then you actually start talking about the outcomes where your fundamental requirement is covered, then the sell becomes easy.
That's right. Yeah. So if anyone in the audience is inspired today from what they've seen and they want to build a product, how would you advise them on how they should think about building that product, leveraging AI coding tools and Launchpad, based on the journey that you guys have been through?
Okay, so I'll go first, right? So essentially, start off with the blueprint, right?
We didn't pay you to say that.
Yeah, no. But generally we do that, right? So essentially, when you started off, you need to first have the idea. Since I've been doing Pega for almost 25 years now, I'll say this. The thing that actually interested me in start doing Pega is the ease of development itself, right? But if you want the development to be easier, your design has to be spot on. So spend a lot of time on the design, which is where Blueprint would actually come into play, right? And as the code is getting implemented, make sure that there is proper governance process where you make sure that you check the code, see what's getting built, what's needed, how it's actually fitting in, because all of that would play into the maintenance angle that we were actually talking about earlier as well, that Adrian was pointing to. Because if you do not understand what is getting generated, there is no way in hell you are maintaining it, right? So those are some of the things that you have to kind of truly think about as you start using Launchpad to build your products, right? Building itself, Launchpad makes it a lot easier, right? But you have to understand nitty-gritty details in terms of what's getting generated, how it's actually being used, what's in the old speak, where it is being referenced, and what is going to be the impact of a said rule. So that you guys need to understand. So those are my 2 cents.
Yeah, another way to kind of frame it is, and people have probably heard this framing before, but probabilistic versus deterministic. So the way I think about that is where do you need intelligence and where do you need rules? And actually, it's interesting because the line is blurring more and more because these AI models are getting so powerful with reasoning that they can reliably execute some rules sometimes. But as we saw in the demo, anyone who's done an AI-powered demo is sitting there going, okay, is everything going to happen? Are the tool calls going to work in the right order? Is everything going to work? Everything going to kind of spin out the back end? And usually it does, if it's architected well, but it doesn't always. So, I now kind of break down things that way. It's let's look at this problem. Can we just use an expression, a decision rule? Is this something that just needs routing or some concrete logic? Or is there truly inference required, intelligence to make sense of this? And in our world, in the world of unstructured content, because it is highly unstructured, often that's a prerequisite. But many parts of the workflow don't require that. So I think that's a very easy way to kind of break down, what's the role of AI and what's the role of workflow or something like Launchpad, where you're trying to drive something with governed, kind of restricted, controlled outcomes.
Yep. Awesome.
Yeah, and I'll just add on one thing. I think spending time on the core, which I think is important, because today we have one agent. I think if we talk next year, we're going to have dozens of agents, working alongside or inside, our core application. There are so many things that you can do, but if you don't get the core right, you can get into trouble.
Yep.
I have a bit of a different advice. It's more focusing on rethink your processes. So we are all experienced in building excellent processes with Pega. And I think the opportunity is there to really disrupt your own processes that you created. So try to think about how to put a Gen AI in your process to, for example, we built an HR application, look at the workflows that we try to make the HR work more attractive for our employees. And see how you can aid them, for instance, in their own HR journey. So I'm not just looking at AI from a development perspective. Besides that, I'm not a developer as well, so I don't have this background. But I think it creates a lot of business opportunities as well. Yeah.
Great. Well, we could probably sit up here for hours, but we need to move on to the awards. I'm sure everybody's interested to see who's won. And so thank you all to the panelists. And I'm sure if folks have questions, you'll be around for a little bit. So feel free to engage you guys. And thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.